What's up guys, Justin here for S&S Archery. Today's gear video we're going to be taking a look at the brand Hamskea, really highlighting what we like about these rests. We've been very fortunate to carry such a great product here at S&S, offer it to you guys. We get a lot of great feedback from our customers on these rests. A lot of people like them. We personally do as well. I've been running the Trinity for a couple years now. I love the thing, just performs flawlessly for me. Can't say enough about it. The four rests that I have in front of me is the primer, the Hybrid Hunter Pros, one a standard, one with a micro adjustment, and then we also have the Trinity Pro. What you're going to find with Hamskea is a well thought out product, very high-end materials, and a very consistent activation with all these rests. That's number one for us. It's got to be consistent. With archery, you're talking micro tolerances. If the rests don't go back and shoot the exact same way every single time, you're going to have tuning issues. You're gonna not be as consistent as you'd like, and so that's really why we like these Hamskeas. But what really separates the Hamskeas versus the competitors is inside the drive system of these rests. What you have inside the Trinity, the Hybrid Hunter Pros, even the primer, is you have sealed bearings. So unlike a lot of the competitors, they're using bushings and lubrications. A sealed bearing is never going to freeze up on you. I had a buddy quite a while ago, late season hunt, shooting at a mule deer, rest with bushings and that lubrication, froze up on him, lost a buck of a lifetime, exploded his rest. Arrow actually deflected up, hit his actual sight. It was just a mess. But with these bearings, this system, you're not going to have that issue. And that makes them very unique. Within having those bearings, you're also getting the most consistent rotation of that carrier rod. So every single time you shoot, you're getting that match grade, perfect, consistent shot every single time. These are all limb-driven or fall-away rests. And if you're not familiar with that, basically you have an activation cord. This is going to control your launcher of your actual system. This activation cord is tied to the bottom or top of your limb within a couple inches of your axle. And as your bow is in resting state, your limbs are at the farthest away that they'll ever be from each other. And that's where this activation cord is tied in tight. As you pull back that arrow, your launcher comes up, releasing the tension as your limbs get closer and closer to each other until it's in a fully contained upward position. As you release, that bow is going to pop back into that resting normal state, and your launcher is going to fall back down to normal position. A couple things happen right when you release. Your arrow is still guiding down, so you're getting the longest travel, great steer on your arrow towards your target. But before your fletches come in contact with the launcher, it's going to fall out of the way. Your bow is reacting and your rest is reacting at the exact same time. So tuning of these rests are very easy. They're very easy to install as well. All these rests, as you can see, have a containment cage. This is not a full containment system. So basically, as your arrow goes in, there is going to be some slop in here. It's not like a ripcord that you're going to lock into position. But as you pull the launcher itself, you can see this big V. This is basically shaped in this big V, so no matter where your arrow is, as you pull back, it's going to roll into the center every single time. You may have to hold a finger on it as you're stalking in, just so your arrow doesn't bounce up and down. The nice thing about this cage is it is coated in a very dense rubber, so it's going to be very quiet. To load an arrow, it's a very simple process. You're just going to slide it in the side here, right through this little opening. So taking a look at the primer, this is definitely the entry level to the Hamskea Rest, but it's still going to perform, I would say, definitely right up there with some of the other competitors of their high-end models. You're getting great machined materials, that high-end aluminum, stainless steel launcher. You're still getting the containment cage. These containment cages can come on and off, so if you prefer running a little bit lighter setup, you can take it on and off with just a simple screw. With the primer, you still have two sealed bearings. They are a little bit smaller than these other rests, but they're still going to perform quite well. You have an activation dampener This is going to be on your activation cord here, woven through this dampener here. Basically, this is taking a lot of shock, the rebound out of your launcher. So as you shoot and your bow goes off, it's going to keep this from bouncing back up, which is a nice feature to have. The mount itself, it's a little bit shorter than I'd like. I'd like to see this a little bit longer, you know, comparing this to, say, the Hybrid Hunter Pro. You can see definitely shorter. So one issue that I found is when I mounted it up, in order for the launcher to clear my riser on the inside of my grip, I basically had to take the washer off the bolt in order to be able to set my set screw. So I have 2 points of contact on my riser so my rest doesn't move up and down. So that was one thing I didn't love about the primer. I wish that this base would just be a little bit longer. But other than that, it is a phenomenal rest. Definitely the lightest out of all 4 of these rests. Next, we have the Hybrid Hunter Pro. So as you can see here, much like the Trinity, you know, definitely built to last. Machined aluminum. You still have the containment cage coated in this nice rubber. A Teflon launcher, so I really like this. You can add the felt, and it does come with your kit, but it already is going to be a lot quieter than, say, the stainless. You have your activation spring on your activation cord. They have the kind of a football style clamp as far as setting this. It's not as easy as the Trinity, which I'll get to in a second. But basically you're going to loosen this Allen. You can set the tension, so for tuning. Not the easiest process, but definitely not the hardest. You're just going to loosen this Allen, slide the cord up and down to get it in the right spot. The Hybrid Hunter Pro, really we have 2 versions. We have the standard and we have a micro adjustable. Obviously having that micro adjustment for broadheads, just that fine tuning capabilities, not going too far when you make those adjustments is going to be really nice to have. With all these rests, so even the Trinity, you're going to get different color variations, which is awesome. You get the OD green, coyote, there's a tan color, a concrete, which is like a dark gray, and black. So definitely customizing to your bow's risers, color schemes is cool. You can get custom engravings on these, which is about a 2-week turnaround that we basically process the order through S&S, send them off to Hamskea, and they get that done. So whether it's a date that you shot a specific animal or, you know, aim small, whatever it is, you know, you can get that engraved. So that's pretty cool. All right, so moving over to the last rest of the Hamskea line, we have the Trinity Hunter Pro. By far our #1 selling rest here at S&S Archery. Built like a tank. Definitely, you're not going to break this thing. What I really like about it is this extra aluminum, this elongated bar that basically supports the carrier rod with another ball bearing system. So you have 3 bearings on this drive, so at all times that carrier rod is completely supported. You're getting a very consistent roll as that launcher is moving up and down, and every single time it's going back to the same spot. But it just, having that reinforced gives you definitely a sense that no matter how rough on your gear you are, it's going to last. If you take like the Hybrid Hunter Pro or even the primer, any other rest, you know, with this open bar, you could potentially damage this, bend the rod itself. But with this encased in aluminum, this elongated bar, you're definitely having a much stronger rest. Up front on the Hamskea, you're going to see that there is a little guide for an arrow. So this just keeps you centered. Say you're at 3D shoot, you know, you're taking your time, keeps you just nice and straight on your arrow as you start to pull back. Taking a look at the side of the rest, you have your micro elevation and windage adjustments. So this is definitely nice for fine-tuning your broadheads. Comes stock on all the Trinity. So this is definitely a nice benefit of going with the Trinity, having that fine adjustment. Like I stated previously, you know, you can run this activation cord to the top limb. You simply got to flip this little football shape over 180 degrees, and then you'll be able to pull off that upper limb. The last thing I'll mention about the Trinity Hunter Pro is your activation cord. The tightening system is a little bit different than on the Hybrid Hunter Pro and the primer itself. You have their Easy Guide cord lock. Very simple idea, but it's very effective and works. It's very easy to adjust on the fly. Anytime you're rest or your cable, this cord gets loosened by brush, you can easily pull this down, tighten it back up to get the right tightness so your rest is in time. You know, overall, looking at these rests, there really isn't a rest that's going to be a bad decision for you. Whether you're a guy that wants a simplistic, lightweight rest with those sealed bearings, go with the primer. If you want to jump up to the hybrids, having those bigger bearings, you know, possibly, you know, getting that micro adjustment, go with the Hybrid Hunter Pro. That's going to be an awesome setup for you. But if you're a guy that wants the ultimate bow hunter rest, you want all the bells and whistles, you know, something that's indestructible, bomb-proof, has 3 bearings, go with the Trinity. It's a phenomenal rest. But if you guys have any questions about these rests or any other products that we carry here at S&S, please feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email. We'd be glad to help, and thanks for watching.